Voice to the World. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. Donald Trump ahead of Kamala Harris in the US polls, counting with 266 versus 219, set to become the 47th president of the United States. Trump claims victory at the Florida Convention Center, thanks his supporters, including Elon Musk, says will make America great again.
Help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Donald Trump on his election victory, says looking forward to renewing India-US collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. And Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu fires Defense Minister Gallant, appoints Israel Katz in his place. The US says will work closely with the replacement. So, US presidential polls, the latest we are tracking at this hour as the race to the White House nears the finish line. So in News Just In, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulated Donald Trump on his historic election victory. PM Modi wrote on X that he looks forward to renewing collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. He wrote further, together let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also being one of the world leaders, congratulating Donald Trump on his historic election victory. He is writing on X, Prime Minister Modi wrote on X that he looks forward to renewing our collaboration to further strengthen India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership. And he wrote further that together let's work for the betterment of our people and to promote global peace, stability and prosperity. So Donald Trump claiming victory at the Florida Convention Center a little while ago, and a host of world leaders have extended their congratulations to him. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi also saying that he's looking forward to renewing the India-US comprehensive global strategic partnership with him. Donald Trump claimed victory and pledged to heal the country on Wednesday as results put him on the verge of beating Kamala Harris in a stunning White House comeback. His exuberant speech came despite the fact that only Fox News had declared him the winner, with no other US networks having made the call so far. As jubilant supporters cheered and chanted USA, Trump took to the stage at his campaign headquarters in Florida, along with his wife Melania and several of his children.
Very much. This is great. These are this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And
in his victory speech, as the United States presidential election results became clear, Donald Trump said that he believed this was the greatest political comeback ever.
well, I want to thank you all very much. This is great. These are our friends. We have thousands of friends on this incredible movement. This was a movement like nobody's ever seen before. And frankly, this was, I believe, the greatest political movement of all time. There's never been anything like this in this country, and maybe beyond. And now it's going to reach a new level of importance because we're going to help our country heal. We're going to help our country heal. We have a country that needs help, and it needs help very badly. We're going to fix our borders. We're going to fix everything about our country. And we made history for a reason tonight, and the reason is going to be just that. We overcame obstacles that nobody thought possible, and it is now clear that we've achieved the most incredible political thing. Look what happened. Is this crazy?
Donald Trump also thanked Americans for electing him the 47th U.S. president and vowed that this will be the golden age of America.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president and your 45th president. And to every citizen, I will fight for you, for your family, and your future. Every single day I will be fighting for you, and with every breath in my body, I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. That's what we have to have.
Donald Trump also highlighted Republicans' extraordinary win in the swing states.
The battleground states of North Carolina, I love these places. Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. We are now winning in Michigan, Arizona, Nevada, and Alaska, which would result in us carrying at least 315 electoral votes, but it's much easier doing what the networks did or whoever called it, because there was no other path. There was no other path to victory. We also have won the popular vote. That was great. Very proud of that.
Trump said that it was America's powerful mandate that Republicans have taken control of in this election.
America has given us an unprecedented and powerful mandate. We have taken back control of the Senate. Wow, that's good. And the Senate races in Montana, Nevada, Texas, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, were all won by the MAGA movement. They helped so much.
Trump also congratulated U.S. Vice President-elect J.D. Vance, calling him a man with courage.
I want to be the first to congratulate our great, now I can say, Vice President-elect of the United States, J.D. Vance. And his absolutely remarkable and beautiful wife, Usha Vance. And he is a feisty guy, isn't he? You know, I've said, go into the enemy camp. And you know, the enemy camp is certain networks. And a lot of people don't like to, sir, do I have to do that? He just goes, okay. Which one? CNN, MSDNC? He'll say, all right, thank you very much.
U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson congratulated President-elect Donald Trump. Johnson said that there is hope and morning in America again. Donald Trump is now their president-elect, chosen by the American people for such a time as this, he said. US networks had already called the swing states of Pennsylvania, Georgia, North Carolina for Trump. The mood at the US election watch parties shifted significantly after the results in three major swing states. Republican former President Donald Trump is closing on a second term in the White House after winning the biggest battleground prize of Pennsylvania. In a major shift, Republicans have regained control of the US Senate, ending 4 years of Democratic majority. This victory strengthens the GOP's position across the government and is expected to bolster the incoming president's ability to advance their agenda and appoint Supreme Court justices. Meanwhile, in Ohio, Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown conceded to Republican businessman Bernie Moreno. At his watch party, Brown told supporters this is a disappointment, but it is not a failure, affirming his commitment to values like dignity in work and people over corporate interests.
We might be tempted to second-guess ourselves and question whether we worked hard enough or long enough. That is not our story tonight. We believe that all work has dignity. We always will. We believe in the power of people over corporate special interests. We always will. We believe if you love this country, you fight for the people who make it work. We always will. This is a disappointment, but is not a failure.
DD India's Jessica Taneja joins us for more now. Jessica, has Donald Trump won the race? What are the numbers looking like?
Well, he's hardly 5 electoral votes short of the race, and if you see the key swing states, mostly the counting is yet to be done in few of them, but what would suggest otherwise the numbers that are coming in, that it is a win for Donald Trump. And with the victory now looking slightly difficult for Kamala Harris, especially because Pennsylvania did not swing in her favor. And that was one of the key battleground states with 19 crucial electoral votes. This time, Trump has been able to turn that around. And with the kind of majority we're looking at, as you pointed out, even the House of Senate now has a Republican majority to an extent. And we'll only see once all the counting is done. But few battle states like Arizona and Nevada, few ballots is yet to be counted. So an overall picture would emerge, but it seems like it is a victory now for Republican nominee Donald Trump, who was the 45th president of the United States and will now be the 47th.
Yes. And what will be Trump's economic priorities in his second term? We heard his address at Florida. He said that he'll do everything to make America great again. And he also mentioned that it was the greatest political comeback ever in the US history.
That's right. It's been quite, quite a ride when it comes to the election campaigning in the United States. Donald Trump survived 2 assassination attempts. You'd recall that first gunshot that was fired at him at his rally, and that somehow seemed to have picked up momentum where Trump campaign, I think, was on a path to talk more about the concerns of the individual voters or the undecided voters, so to say. So he did appeal to the economic side of the issues. If you look at America right now, a country with $60,000 GDP per capita, dollars GDP per capita, is certainly an interesting time for the country. Also because controlling inflation is something that most people want at this point. It is a burden on their pockets, be it petrol prices or be it everyday living. The rise in prices has affected ordinary Americans to an extent that they'd rather trust Donald Trump than Kamala Harris. Even for Kamala Harris, who made a decent pitch about her economic policies, they were not very far away from Bidenomics, carry forward from what the Biden administration had largely pointed out. So compared to that, the kind of ideas that Trump has promised, especially when it comes to imposing heavy tariffs, be it on Mexico, be it on China, the largest trading partners of America, while that has given some scare to overseas investors, and especially for US companies that do trade with China on huge volumes, that could become problematic, because if you'd recall, the last trade war with China did not go so well. But the Biden administration pretty much continued Trump era's China policy. So that wouldn't likely to change much. As for India, if you ask, I think a lot of bipartisan support for relationship with India has existed, be it the Democrats or the Republicans, and with Donald Trump now, in the White House, it should not change much, but only in the future we'd know as to how our engagements pan out. Then we.
Yeah, and how do you think, Jessica, India-US comprehensive global and strategic partnership are likely to fare with the expected change of US leadership?
Well, with the change of leadership, there is not much that would change, but we only have few precedents from history to remind us on what the Trump presidency initially looked like back in 2016. Now, if you'd recall, President Trump had very categorically pointed out the kind of tariffs that are imposed on American goods in India is not favorable. He quote unquote once even called India abuser of tariffs and also the free trade system that the Americans were offering. He had even encouraged to impose 20% tariff on Indian imports to America. So, we've seen those moments of riffraff when it comes to economic engagement. But if you talk about the overall picture, I think United States and America have tread on the path where their bilateral trade has only moved upwards, closing in to more than $100 billion. It's sometimes a competition between India, China, or India, US. So it's that close. So perhaps looking at the picture, that momentum would continue. But then from the previous presidency of Donald Trump, you also know there is a greater level of unpredictability, so to say. But how much will that unpredictability play when it comes to trade between the two countries? Because in the last few years, a lot of strategic partnerships have been formed. A lot of American investment has been made, has been very interested in India. With the Biden administration, you saw the Americans, helping develop key manufacturing, units in India when it comes to semiconductor, or talk about advanced technology. There is ISET as well, which is, initiative for critical and emerging technology, something that has helped India move ahead with its own semiconductor initiatives. So all of that, in all likelihood, should continue and should not be hampered, as long as, again, if there is unpredictability, one cannot say much.
Okay, thank you, Jessica Taneja. Jessica Taneja reporting on the US presidential elections. Meanwhile, global reactions are pouring in as Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump has claimed victory over Democratic rival Kamala Harris after being projected to win the key battleground states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina and Georgia. French President Emmanuel Macron congratulated Donald Trump on Wednesday after the Republican claimed victory in the US presidential election. Taking to X, Macron said, "Congratulations, President Donald Trump, ready to work together as we have done for 4 years with your convictions and with mine, with respect and ambition for more peace and prosperity." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu congratulated Donald Trump on Wednesday on what he hailed as a historic return to the White House. Netanyahu wrote, "Your historic return to the White House offers a new beginning for America and a powerful recommitment to the great alliance between Israel and America." El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele offered his congratulations, wishing Trump blessings and guidance. Taking to X, Bukele said, "Congratulations to the President-elect of the United States of America, Donald Trump. May God bless and guide you." Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban, a vocal supporter, hailed Trump's victory on the social media. He becomes the first EU leader to comment on the US election. Taking to Facebook, Orban said, "The biggest comeback in US political history. Congratulations to President Donald Trump on his enormous win, a much-needed victory for the world." Dutch politician Geert Wilders also celebrated, urging Trump to never stop and keep fighting. He said, "Congratulations, President Trump. Congratulations, America. Never stop. Always keep fighting and win elections." Cedric Richmond, Harris' campaign co-chair, tells a watch party at Harvard University in Washington that Kamala Harris will not address her supporters on election night. Her campaign said after Donald Trump pushes closer to victory in the tense U.S. presidential vote. Crowds of Harris's supporters dispersed from the Harvard University after the announcement that her speech would be delayed until the following day.
We still have votes to count. We still have states that have not been called yet. We will continue overnight to fight to make sure that every vote is counted, that every voice has spoken. So you won't hear from the Vice President tonight, but you will hear from her tomorrow. She will be back here tomorrow.
Stocks extended gains, treasury yields jumped while the dollar hit the highest since July as early returns bolstered trades that have for months risen with Donald Trump's election prospects. With polls closed in more than two-thirds of the states, S&P 500 futures were up almost 1%. US 10-year yields rose 12 basis points to a 4-month high of 4.39%, and Bitcoin rallied 3%, moves that together bore the imprint of trades linked to a Republican victory. While the results were still being collected and polls remained open in 9 states, the ex-president's odds of election were climbing on betting markets and on national forecasting sites such as Decision Desk HQ. While equities in Japan, Australia climbed, shares in Hong Kong slipped. The Mexican peso dropped 2%, while the Japanese yen slid 1%. And updates from the Indian stock markets as well. The Sensex today extended rally with gains of over 800 points and reclaimed the 80,000 mark amid positive global market cues. Nifty 50 also traded above 24,400 level, led by gains across the board. The mid-cap and small-cap indices rallied over 1% each. But the Indian rupee fell 14 paise to an all-time low of 84 rupees 23 paise against the US dollar in early trade on Wednesday. The dollar surged and the Bitcoin hit a record high on Wednesday as traders bet on a Donald Trump victory in the US presidential election. The dollar climbed 1.5% against the yen, over 1% against the euro, and more than 3% against the Mexican peso. Commodities including oil, metals and grains fell as a stronger dollar took hold, with markets pricing in the potential impact of a Trump win, including fresh tax cuts, tariffs and rising inflation. Meanwhile, Bitcoin soared past the $75,000 mark, setting a new record. Anil Thomas now joins us for more on the stock markets. Anil, the Sensex at the Bombay Stock Exchange has surged well over 800 points so far today. How far is this related to Trump's victory, and also what does it mean for the global stock markets in the days ahead?
Well, the US markets in particular, NASDAQ, or for that matter Dow Jones, generally don't reflect anything with regards to the elections. If you look at the last 6 elections or counting day, the market has ended in green on all the 6 days. So that clearly is an indicative, but the early mood was very much upbeat. You saw a 1% jump in Dow Jones, NASDAQ, all the 3 stock indices that US markets that are there in the US markets, and that clearly was an indicative of how this particular election could go. One way it could be that Kamala Harris is on the way to regaining power. The second half or the mid part of the US stock markets really did see a huge tumble, but then the bounce back was even stronger, and that clearly was an indication for all other world markets to pick up, a cue for all the world markets to pick up that things look pretty good, stable in the American markets. and that's a result that you see, an upbeat mood across all Asian and European markets too that have opened just now. So clearly the market mood is upbeat, and I think cryptocurrency, the jump in cryptocurrency or the jump in digital assets by over 3% clearly was an indication that Trump during his campaigns has said that he's a firm believer in digital assets, and he firmly believes that cryptocurrency is the way ahead. So, those were two baits that one would look at purely in terms of a 3% jump that cryptocurrency hitting 75,000 mark. Clearly was indicative that, things are all ripe for a change in US presidential race. And Trump now clearly ahead is, I think, soothing the markets, and the markets are clearly now playing along with the trend that the US markets have set, and cryptocurrency surely causing a lot of smiles to the people who are invested in it.
Yeah, so talking of Bitcoins, how are their prices likely to fare now?
Well, as I said in his election campaign, Trump had vouched for digital assets or cryptocurrency, and said that he's a firm believer in cryptocurrency and, dealing with it. And I think the mood was clearly upbeat when early trends came in, and Trump was actually leading in the swing states. And, it never dropped below the 3% surge that it showed very early in the morning. I think cryptocurrency continued to maintain that momentum. And I think this particular win, when it is consolidifies and, you get a clear picture with the news channels and all others giving you those numbers out, I think you would see a cryptocurrency would rather, look for a close that's not a close, but rather consolidating somewhere between the 3 to 5% range across the day.
Thank you very much, Anil. Anil Thomas tracking the global markets for us. Chip-making giant NVIDIA surpassed Apple on Tuesday to become the highest valued company in the world as the artificial intelligence boom continues to excite Wall Street. Shares in the AI juggernaut rose 2.9% to $139.93, swelling its market capitalization to $3.43 trillion, ahead of Apple at $3.38 trillion. The world's biggest tech companies have invested tens of billions of dollars into NVIDIA's powerful AI technology that is the central component for training powerful generative AI systems such as OpenAI's ChatGPT and Google's Gemini. NVIDIA on Friday will join the Dow Jones Industrial Average. You're watching DD India News Hour. A lot more coming on the other side. Stay with us.
Who will be the next president of the US? America decides. DD India reports from Ground Zero.
An election on razor's edge. From the economy to democracy, the stakes can't get any higher. It's Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump.
In Washington, D.C., I'm Shubhendu Ghosh tracking Kamala Harris's election watch party.
At Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, I'm Amritpal Singh following Donald Trump as he monitors the election from here.
Watch Race to the White House as the finish line approaches. Live and exclusive coverage only on DD India.
As our ecosystems change, we not only need to amplify our efforts to save them, but we also need to adapt our lives.
Today, everything grows here. At an altitude of 5,000 meters, we grow mushrooms, strawberries, watermelon and tomatoes. It's been made possible by the introduction of technology.
It's like with stocks. You diversify your portfolio to minimize risk. That's what we're trying to do with the mixed forest too.
People's mindset is changing in favor of electric mobility, and I see huge success in the future as well.
Same eelgrass is one of the most important elements in the ecosystem along the Baltic Sea coast. It produces oxygen and provides habitat for smaller fish.
Donald Trump ahead of Kamala Harris in the US polls, counting with 266 versus 219, said to become the 47th president of the United States. Trump claims victory at the Florida Florida Convention Center thanks his supporters, says will make America great again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi congratulates Donald Trump on his election victory, says looking forward to renewing India-US collaboration to further strengthen the India-US comprehensive, global and strategic partnership. Donald Trump's victory underlines a deep desire in the minds of voters for a change. He had a giant opponent in Kamala Harris, who tried to win hearts of people with her cheerful laughters and welfare promises. Let's see DD India's Akhilesh Suman's report on what were the factors that shattered Kamala Harris's hopes for the White House.
Anti-incumbency is the biggest factor of Trump's victory. People seem to have voted against the way Joe Biden-Kamala Harris duo were running the administration. Economic concerns seem prominent, with many voters dissatisfied with inflation and the rising cost of living. And when the final pre-election day, job reports from the Labour Department showing anemic growth in employment, largely because of hurricane and a major labour strike, Trump pounds that brand new jobs report proved decisively that Kamala Harris and Crooked Joe have driven our economy off the cliff. Trump said at a rally in Michigan last week. Trump has been particularly vocal about illegal immigration. This has defined his political brand. His advertisements included black and white images depicting immigrants racing across the border or on city streets. He called for the death penalty for migrants who kill law enforcement officers. Trump's campaign strategy has effectively reached diverse groups, including Latino and African American communities, who are often concerned about the pressures caused by illegal immigration. Many individuals in these communities, particularly those with legal citizenship, resonate with his stance on the matter. Among Asian American communities, the desire for stability in immigration policies align with Trump's approach. They are also discontented with rising costs in housing, education, and general living expenses. For Indian Americans who have leaned Democratic in the past, Trump's apparent friendship with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Trump's firm stance against Pakistan, terrorism, and China, as well as the Indo-Pacific, have shifted support in his favor. Trump has survived 2 assassination attempts, which have drawn sympathy for him. He has invoked faith and visited churches, appealing to traditional believers. High early voting numbers, particularly from Republican voters in battleground states, show that support for Trump has remained strong despite charges related to the 2020 election aftermath. Voters also seem dissatisfied with the Biden-Harris administration's handling of international conflicts, particularly the Russia-Ukraine war and the Israel-Hamas conflict, where the US support has appeared costly but seemingly ineffective in stopping the violence. Another factor contributing to Trump's success in the 2024 election is a strong messaging of law and order. Trump has consistently framed himself as a defender against rising crime rates in major cities, claiming that the current administration has been too lenient on issues like violent crime, drug trafficking, and urban unrest. Akhilesh Suman's report for DD India.
US Senator Ted Cruz has secured his re-election, celebrating with supporters in Houston, with about 90% of precincts reporting. Cruz held a strong lead over Democratic challenger Colin Allred, winning a 3rd term. In his victory speech, Ted Cruz reiterated his Keep Texas, Texas slogan, emphasizing continuity in the state's political direction.
Tonight's victory belongs to all of us across the state. Thank you to each of you. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas. I love you.
Meanwhile, with the counting underway, Donald Trump has claimed massive cheating in Philadelphia. Trump said that there was a lot of talk about massive cheating in Philadelphia after Pennsylvania's largest city posted exceptionally high voter turnout. The former president provided no evidence, even as he claimed that law enforcement is coming on his Truth Social platform. Refuting the claims, Philadelphia officials said there is no smoke to it. And to understand the verdict of the US elections, now we are joined by Professor Harshvardhan Pant, Vice President of the Observer Research Foundation. Welcome, sir. So as Donald Trump is on the cusp of victory now, what are likely to be Trump's major policy moves on the international stage?
I think, he has laid out a very expansive agenda, and one of the reasons why he has become victorious is because of the voter discontent in America about the rising cost of living, about inflation, about crime, about immigration. So I think that will be his focus. That will be his focus areas. Abroad, I think he will be very tempted to wind down American support for Ukraine, which he has mentioned repeatedly that this cannot be an open-ended commitment. And I think largely his focus will be inward-looking, but at the same time also focusing on China, where he has, a country he has threatened with tariffs. So certainly, I think we are looking at a landscape that will be quite that will be disruptive. That will be disrupted by Mr. Trump coming back to power in Washington. He has openly laid out an agenda which is not in the mainstream of American foreign policy establishment. So I think we are going to see a lot of changes, and some of the themes that he has laid out, that he had laid out in his first presidency, will also continue. So we are going to see a very active presidency from his point of view, because certainly he's not going to get another term at the office, and he'll have to make the most of his 4 years in White House.
US Vice President-elect also said that after having the best political comeback, Trump will now lead the best economic comeback in history. Your take on that?
And that, I think, is certainly the most important issue on Mr. Trump's political agenda, because that is what has voted him back to power. There is an expectation, perhaps among people who are hurting in America, who feel that Biden administration has not paid enough attention to their economic distress, to the rising cost of living, to inflation, to a larger economic pessimism that surrounds American economy at this point. Although the economy has been doing relatively well in the last few months, but still I think for people to feel reassured, they have voted Trump back to power, hoping that he will have a plan to not only bring down the cost of living, but also to ensure that the working class gets their due, and we do see a lot of support for him in the working class boroughs in the American states. A lot of the blue states have voted for Republicans, and I think we are going to see that trend continue, where Mr. Trump will lay out an agenda which will be about economic revival, as he says, of the US. So, Make America Great Again movement is premised on this idea that America needs to nurture its own strengths domestically, which means manufacturing, which means employment, which means larger economic prosperity, which has eluded many in the Rust Belt of America.
And how do you see the good relations between Donald Trump and Prime Minister Modi benefiting India? Also, US Senator Richard McCormick has said that both Donald Trump and Narendra Modi can grow the world economy together. Your reaction to that?
Well, certainly, I think there is a history between Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump. Both have had a very productive 4 years back in when Mr. Trump was in White House, and they had laid out very extensive in the U.S. agenda, bilateral agenda, and global agenda. And I think both of them remain focused on domestic priorities, developmental priorities. And Mr. Modi has tried to ensure that India continues to contribute to the global growth agenda. And as India grows, India can be a very important partner for the US. And I think perhaps India is the only country which was comfortable with both Biden administration and a potential Trump administration. So I think we are going to see that chemistry between Mr. Modi and President-elect Trump to be translated into actionable policy outcomes. And we are going to see this relationship grow both in economic terms, as you pointed out, but also in strategic terms in the Indo-Pacific.
And how do you see US-India defense strategic ties developing under the new US president?
Precisely because Donald Trump is focused on ensuring that the focus of America remains on long-term strategic challenge, that is China. I think we are going to see a lot more focus on the core threat which he feels America faces, which is the rise of Chinese power in the Indo-Pacific. And for that, he needs partners and a capable, credible partner like India, which what India has been trying to do in the region and beyond, is a marker that India remains willing to play a larger role. And in that context, defense ties, security ties between the two countries will grow bilaterally, as well as part of the wider quadrilateral security dialogue, Quad, which was resurrected, by the way, under President-elect Trump's last presidency. So in that sense, he will continue to engage on the Quad. He will continue to engage on a lot of issues which he was doing before, but certainly with a new momentum, because now there is a synergy in the India-US relationship on a range of issues, not simply economic, but also on a strategic, which he would like to take forward to its logical conclusion.
Finally, a quick word, Professor Pant, on Democrat nominee Kamala Harris's campaign. What are the lessons there?
I think the Democrats broadly have done very badly. They have lost, they have lost Senate, and they are on the verge of also losing the House of Representatives. And this was an election where, for the first time after 1982, Republicans have also won a popular mandate. So in that sense, I think this is back to the drawing board kind of a situation for the Republicans. They will have to rethink how they connect with the wide swathe of American electorate that is no longer engaged with them and increasingly gravitating to the Republicans, even their traditional supporters like the urban working class, for example. They are not voting for the Democrats. So Democrats, we have seen 31-19 is the score in the states, at the state level. 31 states have been won by the Republicans, have been taken by Trump, and 19 states have been won by Kamala Harris. This is a disastrous result for the Democrats, but Kamala Harris also was burdened by the legacy of Biden administration. She came very late. She was anointed very late as the presidential candidate. So I think there is a lot that the Democrats will have to do over the coming years to figure out a response to this dramatic comeback by Donald Trump.
All right, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much, Professor Pant, for joining us. USA is not getting its woman president, at least not for now. Thank you very much for joining us on DDI News Hour. Updates from the West Asia conflict now. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismissed his Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Tuesday after public differences over the Gaza conflict. Netanyahu and Gallant have frequently clashed over Israel's retaliatory military offensive against Hamas following the group's deadly attack on Israel on October 7th last year. Netanyahu, in a video address, said that he had no trust in Gallant over the management of Israel's ongoing military operations.
In the midst of a war, more than ever, full trust is required between the Prime Minister and the Minister of Defense. Unfortunately, although in the first months of war, there was such trust and there was very fruitful work, during the last months, this trust cracked. Significant gaps were discovered between me and the Minister of Defense, Gallant, in the management of the campaign. I made many attempts to bridge these gaps, but the crisis of trust that was getting wider between myself and the Minister of Defense became public. And this crisis does not allow the proper continuation of the management of the campaign.
Sacked Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant on Tuesday called on the government to bring home the hostages in Gaza while they were still alive. Gallant said he was fired by the Israeli Prime Minister due to disagreements on the Gaza conflict. Following his dismissal, the 65-year-old Gallant vowed to continue working to ensure Israel's security.
I would like to salute our fallen troops and their families, those who were wounded, the hostages and their families. And all of our troops, I trust you and I salute you. I am proud of the defense establishment's achievements. I trust our soldiers and their commanders. The security of the state of Israel has been and always will be my life's mission. And I am committed to this.
Former Foreign Minister Israel Katz has been appointed as the Defense Minister of Israel. The newly appointed Defense Minister vowed on Tuesday to defeat Israel's enemies and achieve the goals of the conflicts with Hamas and Hezbollah. Katz, a member of Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party, has been a member of the Knesset since 1998. He's held several ministerial posts in the past 2 decades, including agriculture, transport, intelligence, finance and energy portfolios. He was appointed Foreign Minister in 2019. Gideon Saar has been appointed as the new foreign minister of the country after his predecessor Katz took charge as the defense minister. Gideon Saar is an Israeli politician currently serving as a member of the Knesset for New Hope. The United States on Tuesday called Gallant an important partner on all matters related to the defense of Israel. Responding to Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's decision to fire Gallant, the US said it will continue to work collaboratively with Israel's next defense minister. North Korean troops have entered the fight in Russia's conflict against Ukraine, clashing for the first time with Ukrainian forces who are occupying a large chunk of Russia's Kursk region. President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the first battles between the Ukrainian military and North Korean troops open a new page in instability in the world after his defense minister said that a small engagement had taken place.
The first battles with North Korean soldiers open a new chapter of instability in the world. Together with the world, we must do everything to ensure that this Russian step towards expanding the war towards real escalation, that this step of his becomes a losing one for Putin and for North Korea.
South Korea's presidential office said on Wednesday that it will build a perfect security partnership with the new US administration. A high-ranking presidential official also told reporters that North Korean troops have not yet fully engaged in combat against Ukrainian forces. The official said there was a necessity for South Korea to send a monitoring team to the war in Ukraine, and the National Assembly's agreement is not required for sending such personnel for a specific purpose and limited time. Meanwhile, a Ukrainian drone injured at least one person when it struck an apartment building in Russia's Belgorod region on Tuesday, causing a fire. A man whose leg was injured by shrapnel in the incident was subsequently taken to a city hospital. Firefighters are tackling the blaze, which has spread across 3 apartments in the building. Local Governor V. Gladkov characterized the incident as a Ukrainian military attack against a civilian target. Media reports previously said that multiple people were injured in the incident. In retaliation, the Russian forces struck various Ukrainian targets, while Ukraine on the same day claimed to have repelled multiple Russian attacks. The Russian Defense Ministry said in a briefing that the Russian army had attacked the Ukraine army's manpower and equipment assembly areas in 143 regions and also attacked the infrastructure of several Ukrainian military airports, missile production workshops and energy facilities over the past day. The ministry also said that the Russian army had repelled several Ukrainian attacks in the Kursk region, making Ukraine lose more than 200 military personnel in this direction. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar attended the Raisina Down Under 2024 session in Canberra. In a social media post, Dr. Jaishankar said, and I quote him, "A stimulating conversation this morning with New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Winston Peters and Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong at the Raisina Down Under 2024. Spoke about India's priorities in the Indo-Pacific and opportunities for greater collaboration with Australia and New Zealand. Dr. Jaishankar met Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese on Wednesday in Canberra. They discussed ways to deepen the bilateral comprehensive strategic partnership between both the countries. During the meeting, Jaishankar also conveyed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's greeting to Albanese. The minister is on an official visit to Australia from November 3rd to November 7th. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar met Peter Dutton, the leader of Liberal Party of Australia. Dr. S. Jaishankar posted on social media platform X, saying that they shared perspectives on global issues and appreciate his support for bilateral ties. The Indian minister also met New Zealand Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Winston Peters and discussed education, technology, agriculture and people-to-people ties. The two leaders also exchanged views on Indo-Pacific and global issues. India's External Affairs Minister also met with UAE's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Abdullah bin Zayed in Canberra on Wednesday. The External Affairs Minister reached Brisbane on Sunday on a 6-day visit to Australia and Singapore. The Delhi High Court has refused permission to perform puja at the Yamuna banks. The court observed that the ban was likely imposed due to the high pollution levels in the Yamuna river, warning that people could fall ill from bathing in such toxic water. A boarding bridge attached onto Kuwait Airways plane door suddenly collapsed at Dhaka International Airport on Wednesday. All the 284 passengers were disembarked for safety purposes. The damaged aircraft was scheduled to depart for Kuwait Airways. Kuwait Airways sources said that the Kuwait-bound passengers had been accommodated in hotels. In sports news now, the Indian Premier League IPL 2025 mega auction is going to be held on November 24th and 25th in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. The IPL auction is being held overseas for the second consecutive year. A total of 1,165 Indian and 409 overseas players have signed up for the mega auction. The list includes 320 capped players, 1,224 uncapped players and 30 players from associate nations. An official IPL release confirmed on October 31st, all the 10 franchises announced their respective player retentions and total of 46 players were retained. International Cricket Council has released the latest women's ODI player rankings on Tuesday. Women's skipper Harmanpreet Kaur rose to the 9th place after her power performance in the final game of the home series against New Zealand. Vice-captain Smriti Mandhana remained in the 4th place after the 2-1 series win against the White Ferns. Mandhana's century pushed her rating points up to 728, but she remains behind Chamari Attapattu, Laura Wolveraut and Nat Skyber Brunt in the order. Deepti Sharma too attained a career best rating of 703 to retain the second spot in the bowlers ranking behind Sophie Ecclestone. India's placed third in the ICC Women's Championship standings after the series win over New Zealand with 25 points. India will host Australia and England while embarking on an expanded schedule of test matches across the globe, as announced in the International Cricket Council's ICC's Women's Future Tours Programme FTP for 2025-29 cycle. This period will see India host other top teams and play away series against countries like New Zealand, West Indies, Ireland and South Africa, marking a new chapter in competitive opportunities for women's cricket. Aside from Australia and England, two of the sport's heavyweights, India will welcome Bangladesh and Zimbabwe at home. Zimbabwe's inclusion reflects the ICC Women's Championship's expanded structure, allowing more nations to compete at the highest level. So that's it for this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can catch all the latest news and updates from India and the world on our DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will